2214, June 15, 1944. Saipan, Mariana Islands. The night sky hangs low over the Pacific, heavy, humid, and trembling with the distant thunder of naval guns. On a ridge overlooking the coastline, a group of exhausted Japanese soldiers peer down toward the dark shoreline, expecting another wave of American landing craft to emerge from the surf. But tonight, they see something different. Scattered across the captured beachhead, dozens of strange silhouettes rise under blinding floodlights. Huge metal frames, stacks of timber, engines roaring through the night. At first, the soldiers don't understand. Then the realization hits them like a blow. The Americans aren't just occupying Saipan. They're building something massive right in front of their eyes. Within mere hours, the outlines become clear. A straight, wide strip carved into the earth, lengthening with impossible speed. A runway on Saipan. One officer whispers, voice trembling, "If they finish that, the war is over." Far below, Seabees race through the night, turning a conquered island into an unsinkable fortress, and Japan into a target within reach. But America had planned it from the start. What Japan is witnessing on Saipan is not a battlefield tactic. It is the unveiling of a weapon, one unlike anything the world has seen. Not a battleship, not a carrier, not even the B-29, but something far more dangerous. An island transformed into a fortress, a base that cannot sink, cannot burn, cannot drown. For years, the Imperial Japanese Navy relied on a single belief: control the sea and you control the war. Sink the enemy, cut their supply lines, isolate their forces. But now the United States is rewriting that logic. They are turning every conquered island into a permanent, immovable war machine. Runways long enough for the heaviest bombers in history, massive fuel depots carved into coral anti-aircraft rings that make each island a steel citadel, naval repair docks and supply bases, radar stations scanning hundreds of miles of ocean barracks, hospitals and ammunition depots built with terrifying speed. These are not islands anymore. These are unsinkable aircraft carriers, placed like stepping stones across the Pacific, each one bringing America closer to the Japanese homeland. Japan had never imagined this. For years, Japan believed the Pacific Ocean itself was their greatest ally. A vast natural moat stretching thousands of miles in every direction. Every Japanese strategy, every calculation, every expectation was built on three pillars. 1. No bomber can reach us from American territory. Japan believed distance would protect the home islands. The Pacific was too wide. American air bases were too far. No aircraft could cross it and return. This was true in 1941. It became a fatal illusion by 1944. 2. The islands in the Central Pacific are worthless. Before the war, Japanese planners dismissed places like Tarawa, Saipan, and Tinian as too small, too remote, too barren to support large forces. To them, these islands were stepping stones for ships, nothing more. They never predicted America would turn them into cities of steel almost overnight. 3. If America builds a base, we will sink it. Japan believed their navy, once the most feared in Asia, could intercept and destroy any attempt to create a forward base. This assumption collapsed the moment Japan lost at Midway Philippine Sea Leyte Gulf. With their carrier force crippled, Japan no longer had the ability to contest U.S. engineering and logistics, the heart of the miscalculation. Japan prepared for a war of ships. America brought a war of construction. Japan expected naval battles. America delivered industrial warfare, a tidal wave of engineers, bulldozers, cranes, and Seabees capable of raising runways faster than Japan could destroy them. What the Japanese high command failed to understand was simple. The Pacific wasn't just water, it was real estate, and America was buying it one island at a time. The true power of America's island fortresses was not the islands themselves, but the speed and scale with which the United States transformed them. Japan planned for a slow enemy. They expected months of construction. They expected hesitation, shortages, and logistical chaos. What they saw instead was a level of engineering violence the world had never witnessed. The Seabees, America's industrial army. These were not soldiers. These were builders with rifles, an entire corps trained to fight and construct simultaneously. Their capabilities were staggering. An airstrip 2,000 meters long, built in 72 hours. Deep water piers assembled in a single week. Fuel farms storing 100,000 to 200,000 barrels of aviation gasoline. Radar stations installed in less than 6 hours. Hospitals, barracks, ammunition depots built faster than Japan could shell them. Harbors dredged for battleships using floating cranes the size of city blocks. Where Japan saw coral and jungle, the Americans saw raw material. Every island became a blank blueprint. Sekutu, the logistics machine, the real superweapon. The United States did not win by having more planes. They won by being able to feed, fuel, and repair thousands of planes every single day. Numbers that Japan could not comprehend. Over 1,600 Liberty ships supplying the Pacific, averaging 10,000 tons of cargo per day to forward bases. Enough steel shipped each month to build a small city. Entire construction battalions rotated like factory shifts. For every Japanese soldier defending an island, there were 10 American logisticians building the next one. 3. Japan's weakness. An empire built on sand. Japanese engineers were brave but hopelessly outmatched. Their obstacles were crippling. Tropical diseases, no heavy machinery, scarcity of concrete and steel, limited shipping capacity, Allies bombing supply convoys, little experience with high-speed construction. The result was inevitable. Japan needed months to build a runway. America built in days. Ifu. The stunning transformation from Tarawa to Saipan to Tinian, the pattern repeated. Marines conquer the island. Within 24 hours, Seabees land bulldozers roar day and night. Runways emerge from volcanic ash. Anti-aircraft guns ring the island fuel depots. Arrive by ship hundreds of fighters, and B-29s take off within weeks. To Japan, this was not construction. It was industrial magic. The kind of transformation no empire in Asia could replicate, and no army in the world could stop. 0312 a.m., June 16, 1944. Saipan, Mariana Islands. The jungle was still burning. Captain Hiroshi Tanaka of the Imperial Japanese Army crawled behind a shattered coconut log, the air thick with smoke and the metallic sting of gunfire. His men, exhausted, bleeding, half-starved, waited in silence. For days they had fought desperately to push the Americans back into the sea. But tonight, something felt different. From beyond the tree line, an unending rumble rose in the distance. Not gunfire, not artillery, engines, hundreds of them. Tanaka squinted through the smoke and saw a sight no Japanese officer was prepared for. Floodlights, dozens of them, blazing against the night sky. They lit up the captured airfield like a city that had appeared out of nowhere. American bulldozers, machines the Japanese soldiers had never even seen before, carved through coral and volcanic ash as if the island itself were soft clay. Seabees shouted orders. Cranes swung steel beams into place. Fuel trucks hissed as they filled the first storage tanks. It had been less than 48 hours since the Marines landed, yet somehow, a fully functioning American airbase was already rising from the ground. Tanaka wiped the soot from his eyes, thinking it was a hallucination. But then came the sound that broke him, the roar of aircraft. 1, 2, 5, 10. American fighters, freshly assembled, refueled, rearmed, screamed into the sky from a runway that had not existed the day before. Tanaka whispered to his lieutenant, "It is impossible. How can they build faster than we can destroy?" His lieutenant did not answer. He was staring at the horizon, where the silhouettes of new American fuel tanks glowed under construction lamps. Towers of steel that seemed to multiply each hour. For the first time in the war, Tanaka felt something colder than fear. Hopelessness. Not because the Americans were stronger, but because they were building an entire new war right in front of his eyes. 4:58 a.m., June 16, 1944, Saipan, Mariana Islands. The sky was beginning to pale, a thin line of gray stretching over the horizon. Captain Tanaka wiped the sweat from his face, gripping his rifle as he prepared for another counterattack. His men stood ready, exhausted but determined. Then, the sound came, not from the jungle, not from the sea, but from above. A deep, thunderous roar, growing stronger and stronger. Tanaka looked up, and his breath stopped. Dozens of American bombers filled the morning sky. Not ships offshore, not reinforcements arriving later. Aircraft taking off from Saipan itself, from the runway the Americans had built overnight. It was impossible. It was humiliating. It was the end. The bombers flew east to west in perfect formation, engines shaking the air as they climbed upward. Below them, landing craft spilled more Marines onto the beaches. Behind them, engineers were already extending the runway another 1,000 feet. Fuel depots were expanding, barracks rising, radar towers being erected. Saipan, once a fortress of Japan, was now becoming something unthinkable. An American stronghold aimed directly at the Japanese homeland. Tanaka's lieutenant whispered, "This is not an island anymore. It is a launching pad." Moments later, the ground shook as American artillery opened fire. Shells tore through Japanese positions, pushing Tanaka's battalion back toward the cliffs. One by one, Japanese defensive lines collapsed. By sunrise, Tanaka watched something no Japanese officer had ever imagined. American aircraft returning home to a base on Japanese territory. That was the breaking point. In that hour, every soldier understood. The islands were lost. The Pacific was lost. The war was turning. The fall of the Marianas did not just cost Japan a chain of islands. It cost them the foundation of their entire Pacific strategy. 1. The Pacific Shield was broken. For years, Japan believed distance was its greatest defense. Saipan, Tinian, and Guam formed an outer ring, a wall meant to prevent American forces from ever reaching the home islands. But once these islands fell, the wall collapsed in a single night. For the first time in the war, American bombers could strike Tokyo directly. Japan was no longer fighting at the edge of the empire. It was defending its front door. 2. America turned islands into fortresses. What shocked Japan most was not that the Americans captured islands, but how fast they transformed them. massive airfields built in days, fuel depots rising overnight, radar networks expanding every morning. To the Japanese high command, it felt as if the islands themselves had become weapons. 3. Japan's Navy lost its last strategic depth. With the Marianas gone, Japan had no buffer left, no fallback line, no safe harbors for carriers or battleships. Every American advance now threatened the home islands directly. The Imperial Navy was cornered, forced into battles it could not win. 4. B-29 range changed everything. From the Marianas, the B-29 Superfortress could reach Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, Yokohama, and then return safely. This single fact rewrote the map of the Pacific War. Japan's cities, once beyond reach, were now one flight away. 5. Japanese morale cracked. For the first time, civilians saw American bombers overhead, not as distant rumors, but as daily reality. The belief that the emperor's homeland was untouchable evaporated overnight. 6. The lesson that echoed through history: wars are no longer won merely by territory or fleets. They are won by infrastructure, by logistics, by the ability to project power farther and faster than the enemy can imagine. America mastered this, Japan underestimated it, and the Pacific War changed forever. The fall of the island fortresses reshaped the Pacific map, but it is only one thread in a much larger tapestry. A war fought across coral reefs, volcanoes, jungles, and shattered empires. For every victory written in the history books, there are a dozen untold stories buried beneath the waves or lost in journals that no one ever read. If you want to step deeper into those forgotten frontiers, into the battles fought out of sight, into the choices that altered nations, into the moments where the world changed quietly beneath the noise of war, join us at Oblivion Archive, where the hidden history of World War II waits in the shadows, still burning, still breathing, still asking to be remembered.